Hello and welcome everybody to the Jet Life podcast. My name is Tom Lelyo. I'm your ultimate jet guide, and today we're pulling back the private aviation when it comes to should you switch into a career in private aviation, whether that's a broker or any other field, because the business aviation is a wide range. So today we have on the podcast Sarah Kalmeta. Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. I know we're just ahead of the MBAA Leadership Conference, and we're kind of getting a sneak peek of the awesomeness that will be on stage next week. So thanks a lot for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I like to just, give the audience what they came for right out the gates. So I guess the question is, should you pivot in your career right away into aviation? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I literally just shared an article from NBAA the other day about a mid-career pivot to business aviation and why you should consider that. So short answer, yes. There are so many fascinating fields and segments and subsegments within business aviation to consider. And if you like dynamic environments, if you like to learn and be around people, and especially if you love airplanes, but you don't want to be a pilot or do something super technical, there's something for you.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your experience with aviation has been? What role has that played in your life? And maybe just a little bit of background of who you are and what brings you here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I've loved aviation since I was a little girl. We talked before we went live. My first two words were for star and airplane, believe it or not. So when I was growing up, we went to a lot of air and space museums. I took a few lessons. My stepfather was also a big aviation aficionado, so it was in the family. And I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and I quickly realized I do love flying. I love being around the airplanes. I'm like a little kid in a candy shop in a hangar. But if I go on a cross country flight, like 20 minutes later, I'm like, all right, I'm done reading maps. Like it's okay, it's cool, but I'm not hungry for it like many of my pilot friends who absolutely love flying are. And so that's fine. That's a different energy. And so I found a path forward into aviation. I studied aviation business at Embry-Riddle. Basically, I was pivoting before I was pivoting. I thought to myself, just in case I don't like aviation one day, I will understand business so I can do something else. They had a minor in Asian studies. So I studied Mandarin at school, which is what led me to Asia. I was in Asia for 13 years. But to get into business aviation, it was a kind of by chance thing. And if you talk to most people in this industry, that's exactly what they'll say, because I didn't learn about it at Embry-Riddle. I saw the jets, I saw the FBO, but it just kind of, I don't know, it never really touched my realm. And so, I had studied a concentration of airport management. I thought that's the route I was going to take. But let me tell you something, waiting for an airport authority to come back to you with your interview process, I was like, come on, I gotta go. I want to do stuff.
Well, that's just it, right? We've got endless enthusiasm, knowledge, and energy, right? I mean, that's not what you think of when you think of the FAA.
No, not at all, right?
Or knowledge or energy.
Sorry, but any government, there's a lot of bureaucracy and policy. Certainly the blue hair would have not been maybe well received a few years ago. Now it's like, whatever, right? It's cool, much cooler. But I accepted this job with an aircraft management company. And it was one of those things, like I was applying my CVs on the school's hiring website and didn't really know what it was, but just thought I'd send my CV in, and they flew me out to LA and I learned about it. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. There's this whole world that I never knew about. Right. And from there, just, I stayed in it. So I started in LA, I was there for a couple of years. Then I went to Singapore, mainland China, and then Hong Kong. So Hong Kong was home for 10 years and largely on the aircraft management side. So Part 91, private flying, as well as commercial 135. I worked in both charter sales, operations, the dispatch department, technical advisory, entry into service for the aircraft. So I got a chance to do a lot of different things. And I really loved the entry into service because you got to work with all the different departments and figure out how this puzzle worked together and how do we streamline it, and also how do we make all the people play nice with each other, right, and communicate well, and speak different languages, right? If you speak maintenance and then you speak pilot and then you speak dispatch, those are all different languages and different priorities and different goals that they have, right? So getting them to work together, I always found to be very fun and exciting. And so, I was in Asia for a very long time until a pivot forced me back to the US. And now I'm based here in Austin. I'm a professional speaker. So I regularly speak at MBAA, AIN, Corporate Jet Investor. I also do work in aerospace. And I help people learn how to operate better in their environments to navigate the turbulence of life.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I appreciate that. And, you're kind of alluding to this, but when it comes to a career in aviation, so many skills get into it. I think a lot of people think, well, I need to know how an airplane works, or I need to know how to fly an airplane, or I need to be a mechanic, I need to go to school. But just getting involved in business aviation from an organizational, an ops, customer service, there's just so much out there that you can make a mid-career or beginning career. Like maybe mid-career means I went to school as a finance major. Right. Maybe there's a finance, maybe there's a career for you in aviation with regards to finance. I love this quote that's put out there where employees don't see the need to stay with one particular company or even one career track anymore. What has your experience been, both personally and what is the benefit in your experience, I guess I would say, to not just sticking around with one particular company or one career track? I mean, obviously there's benefits to doing that, and that's what a lot of people would say you should do. Maybe you want to speak into the benefits of not sticking around, exploring options.
Yeah. Well, first I'm going to just comment on the word should, because should, the etymology of this word actually goes back to like 12th to 13th century. It means to owe. So when you say should, it means that if I say, you should do that for me, I'm saying you owe it to me. So that's why inherently we don't like this word. And we give ourselves a lot of should-isms. And it's not a very good word to have in your vocabulary. So I would encourage you to consider, if you ever have that thought, catch yourself and go, what do I want to do? And so when we talk about careers, there are benefits to staying with a company. Absolutely. Now, we don't really see pension plans like that article talked about anymore that traditionally kept people in an organization for 40, 50 years, right? And you get the Rolex and you get the all this stuff. Our world looks different, right? That was the industrial era. And we've gone through many reforms technologically. And there's a new word in the dictionary. I think it came in 2021. Must have been, because I was still in Hong Kong, and it's slasher. So have you heard this before?
No, tell me what are we talking about?
I'm not talking about a horror film. Not talking about a horror film.
I think, maybe something along the lines like I'm a pilot / mechanic.
Yes. So it's the new era of, with our sharing economy, we've got Uber, Airbnb, Turo, things like that. And there's Fiverr, there's Upwork, there's all these platforms. I mean, there's platforms where you can go hire legal counsel, where you can hire a fractional CMO, chief marketing officer, or a finance CFO, right? So we have multiple skill sets, which I love, because as an individual, you are not just one thing, and you are also not the thing that you do. So too many people attach their identity to what they do rather than who they are. And so in that concept, right, we start to understand that, hey, I can make money in a lot of different ways. And I can also experience life from many different perspectives. You talk to anyone who's in their elder years that has run businesses. I mean, how many different businesses has Warren Buffett been involved in, right? I know people who have gone from being Grammy award-winning producers and musicians to now working in aviation and doing aircraft sales and brokerage. I know people who have gone from being in aircraft brokerage for 30 years to now having a consulting company and working in adjacent industries as well as aviation. So I really think that the benefit is, you learn something. There's a life cycle to a job. The first year, you're learning your job. The second year, you're getting good at your job. And the third year, you need a stretch. If you're not being stretched in some way and you're not able to grow or move laterally to grow in a new skill set, you're going to get bored, especially if you're a high performer, which this industry tends to attract a lot of those, right?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure from both a hiring perspective and as an employee that you're asking the right questions, as to cultural fit. And does this person have the right attitude of growth and learning and being a team player? And for yourself, when you've reached that life cycle, if that company hasn't grown, if it's not able to offer you another avenue of learning or help you in the association work and kind of keep that growth happening, you might need to go somewhere else in order to keep your own skill sets fresh. And then that also doesn't mean that you just leave, right? And you leave them hanging. You want to maintain relationships because in business aviation and in life, but especially in business aviation, relationships are crucial because one day that person might be your boss, or the person who was your boss might report to you or be the advisor to your new boss, right? So you really want to make sure that you are very intentional with all of your decisions. If you're thinking about a move and you have a healthy workplace culture, you should be able to talk to your manager about that. Don't make assumptions. You don't know the plans, right, that they might have for growth and strategy. But if you raise some concerns of, hey, I've been getting a little bit bored, or I really think I could help out in this area. Is there some maybe area to come on that project? They might say yes, right? You can get a lot of things just by asking.
No, I love that. That's so good. And as you can see, the people are responding. That's so good. Hayden's talking about should equal IO. It's life changing. That's really cool. I want to put up the article because you kind of alluded to something in here. And this quote, it came out from Vince here. We have business aviation clients who expect perfection. It's a high pressure environment that's always changing. And of course, we never close. Veterans in the industry generally have the passion and desire to succeed in that kind of environment. And so you kind of spoke to that. This idea that the aviation career it's high pace, it's high performance. And I guess, how would you advise someone to look at themselves and look at their own lives and their own skill sets, maybe not necessarily what they have, but maybe what they could be. And like, how do you even step foot into an environment like that? When I started, I had no aviation background. I was a youth pastor for 10 years and I didn't know anything about an airplane. And so for me though, I'm a ready, fire, aim person, right? Like, I'm just like, all right, cool. You want to do something? Let's go. And then I'll figure it out. Yeah. But not everyone's like that. And I think, maybe some people, they miss out on the opportunity to be involved in business aviation because it is intimidating. It is so high paced and Top Gun and Maverick and all this stuff. Can you speak to helping people through that, maybe that first nervousness before they get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Not every job in the industry is going to be in that 24/7 type of capacity, right? I don't need an accountant to run numbers at 2 a.m. That's very rare, right? Like, unless a transaction is happening or, right, there's some crisis, it's very rare that you're going to be getting these on-call type of situations. But, it's about understanding what's your personality. That's where I would encourage you to begin. Where do you draw energy from? Are you an extrovert and you like to be around people? Are you more of an introvert? How do you handle change? Do you have strategies to help you calm down in the moment and connect to being present rather than like worrying and racing off into the future or exploding in frustration or anger, right? So emotional intelligence, a high EQ, is extremely important. The ability to articulate yourself and ask questions, not being afraid to ask questions, being curious, and understanding that things are going to change and that's okay. So to get started, start there. If you have an idea that you want to go to a certain company, then do some research about them, learn about their culture, see if you can connect with some people. Go to some association meetings in your local area. There's a lot of MBAA events. There's regional associations. You can go to an air show and you can start to learn about the different types of businesses, right? Is this a operational role? Is this more business development? Am I going to be in a hangar? Can I do remote work? There's so much there. So learning how you best can thrive and in what environment is going to help inform you to make the better decisions when those job opportunities come. But really just being curious, right? Having the mindset of yes and being able to go with the flow and not just dig your heels in like, no, it's not done that way. Because in business aviation, one day you might be wearing one hat and the next day you're wearing another one. And so, getting comfortable with making choices and being accountable for those choices. And you start small, right? You're not going to be doing anything major. And if you are in a position where a decision you've made as a junior associate employee has led to an extreme financial loss or a safety issue, that is actually on the fault of the company, right? Because they didn't have the right structure.
Excuse me, Mr. Smith. Sarah told me this is your fault. So
meaning that if you just give a phone to someone and say, oh, go and do this thing, but there aren't training protocols in place, SOPs, you're not encouraging an atmosphere of asking questions, and you're pushing people past health boundaries, those toxic workplaces, that's what I'm alluding to. We have to make sure that we put boundaries in place, just like we do with children, right? To make sure that they are in an environment where they can learn safely and they can grow and develop their skill sets before we put them out into another environment where there's more risk and where there's more obstacles.
Yes, no, 100%. And I'm definitely finding that as I've shifted as a business owner. So I worked as a broker for 3 years at a company, and, it was very sink or swim. I saw a lot of guys come through and they didn't make it. And then they left. And so like at 12, probably every year. And so when I left there, I started just selling jets and doing content marketing. People started asking me like, how do I become a jet broker? And so I'm like, oh, well, I could help you. And so when I created my own brokerage, and then I started teaching other people how to be brokers on their own, I really enjoy that. But I don't think a lot of business owners necessarily do enjoy the educational piece. They enjoy the end of it. And so like making jet sales, like, yeah, that's great, but I get more fulfilled for me personally when I'm working with my team and helping them get better with, like you said, training, SOPs and things of that nature. I just think that's important to have. Even if you're a business owner and you don't love that stuff, that's fine. Get someone on your team that does. So no one falls through the cracks. So speaking of leadership, let's take a pivot real quick. And I see what I did there. That's funny. Let's take a look at NBAA's the leadership conference. There's some pretty. Oh, look at that. We got some keynote speakers over here. So, slowing down to speed up your winning strategy. I know you can't give everything away right now, but in the context of someone thinking about shifting their career, what would you say to them as it relates to slowing down, speeding up? And or if you want to, you can just kind of give a shout out to the leadership conference and encourage people to be coming.
Yeah, well, absolutely. If you are in business aviation or you're interested in business aviation, the leadership conference is my favorite conference, aside from schedulers and dispatchers, because that's where I started my career. And so I have a very special place in my heart for that.
I was wondering what you were doing there. I was like, whenever I see that conference, I'm like, who goes to that conference? Like, who are these people?
And you know what? And those are the people, schedulers and dispatchers are the unsung heroes of business and aviation, because they are
really
the ones
rowdy bunch, aren't they?
They're like they're very, because right now that maybe some of the strategies for releasing steam, they only have one, which is to be rowdy, and that's fine. But we need healthy ways too. And so, the topics and conversations at all the conferences are now moving towards what can we do. But leadership is really special and unique in that it brings outside experts into the environment so that we're learning also from a different perspective, because ultimately leadership is that 30,000 foot view, right? What are all the perspectives that I need to consider in order to make a decision? And if you're thinking about your career, slow down to speed up, you really can't just hone in on one thing and like to the neglect of everything else, every other factor in your life, full steam ahead and be the bull in the china shop. I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience here. I'd get the goal, I'd do the thing, but there'd be a lot of damage around me too.
Bodies.
So,
Yep.
and a lot of it was my own body, mind, all of that. And so you want to slow down, get a new perspective, learn about the potential environments you're going to go into, and really connect to why everything that you're doing. I just did a podcast earlier on my show, The Lounge, and Mark was saying everything you do is a performance. Everything has high stakes, just sometimes the stakes are higher. So if you start to think about everything you do as a big deal, you're way more intentional about it, right? You show up on time. You do the thing that you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. And you stop making these micro transgressions against not only other people, but yourself, right? How many times have you said, oh, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow, and you don't go to the gym, right? Or I'm gonna
stop. You know, I didn't go to the gym today. Shh, don't tell them. Oh, busted.
Camera. Right? And so, but when you can call yourself out, it's more fun, so it's really about doing it in a way where that foundation is solid. Because when you can make decisions from a strong foundation, doesn't matter what the weather is, that house won't blow down, right? You're going to be able to withstand the external forces that are inevitable, right? Turbulence is always going to be there. Sometimes you know where it is. A lot of times you don't. There's clear pockets of turbulence, right? And so learning as much as you can about what is possible, what maybe is currently not possible, but you think could be, right? And who you are, that's going to help you make those decisions, but make them slowly, right? It's, we have this, it's like take a long time before you get married, right? Make the decision, go through, who do I know this person? Like there's certain questions you should be asking yourself. It's the same thing with your career, asking yourself the real questions, and not just because it looks sexy on paper or because it pays a big fat paycheck or because you'll get to tell your friends like, oh, I do this thing. None of that matters, because if you're feeling empty on the inside, you'll be really lonely, and you could have all the things that everyone else is telling you are so wonderful, and you're going to hate it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Speaking of questions, we've got a couple of questions from people. So let's take that, and then we've got a few more minutes, and then we'll be kind of wrapping up in the next 5 minutes or so. But again, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. Actually, I would be remiss if I didn't, since this is for brokers, finding a community. Let's just take a quick break. I want to share with everybody about our Jet Life Aero Circle community, where people, if they're inquiring about becoming a broker, this is a free community you can join and check out. So let's just take a break real fast. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, go to circle.jetlifeaero.com and check out our online community for aspiring brokers and current brokers. Here you'll find discussions, all thing aviations based, things that you're going to want to know as an aircraft broker. You can also check out our free training, as well as more resources that are available to help you to become a better jet broker. That's circle.jetlifeaero.com to begin your journey within the broker community, absolutely free. All right, we're back. So a couple quick questions. Two from my buddy Urso. One is going to be real fast because I think I know the answer to this, but he's wondering, is the NBAA student membership worth it? What benefits will he get from? I don't know if you can speak to that as a member. I mean, obviously I can as a member. I think you're a member, right? As well. I mean, you're doing the speaking. So what has your experience been with NBAA, and why do you think a student, someone who's trying to get into aviation as a young person, should join?
I definitely think it's worth it. I was never a member of NBAA as a student, because when I was a student, I didn't even know this industry existed. But if I had, I would have certainly been a member. This industry thrives on connection and building relationships. So by being a student member, you're going to get access to, you're going to learn about all the events. There's going to be career fairs. The biggest event that NBAA does every year, BASE, the Business Aviation Convention and Exhibition. Last year, they hosted a big career fair. There was a maintenance, like on hands competition. So there's these opportunities. yeah, there's these opportunities to find a mentor, to learn from others in the industry, and to be able to have discounted rates to go to these events because you are a student and really learn from the people who might be hiring you. And just by the very fact that you are there and you are interacting and you're building those relationships, you're now on the radar. And so you're going to learn about opportunities. I will tell you that the only job in business aviation I ever applied for was my very first one out of Embry-Riddle. After that, every single role I've ever held, every project, every thing I've done in the industry has been through invitation. And so those were not jobs that were advertised.
Ooh.
It was, you're the perfect person for this role with our company. It's the right fit. Can we have a conversation? And of course, they still interviewed other people. They have to do their due diligence, but you're already in the running before the role exists because they're thinking long term. So absolutely, it's worth it. And if there's any local associations, wherever you're based, whatever state, whatever city, do some research and see if you can join those as well.
Awesome. Well, follow up, what are some ways to get into business aviation for young people? He's trying to earn experience as fast as possible, but it's not always easy because if you want to find a company to work with, sometimes they're asking for experience. And it's like, well, I don't have experience. So how do I get experience without experience? That's something I find a lot. What are some tips that you might have for someone trying to get into the aviation world that doesn't have the background or experience?
Again, join the associations that are local. There's so many. There's associations for pilots. There's associations for mechanics. Most of these companies and organizations have the student membership as well, right? There's Women in Aviation. There's the 99s. There's AOPA. There's air shows. Go to these events, again, network, ask questions, be curious, and just say, hey, are you looking for interns? And go and spend time. If you're interested, if there's an FBO in your town, go to the FBO and just talk to everybody. Say, hey, I really want to learn about this industry. Do you have any internships coming up or any entry-level positions? And just, again, it's all about building the relationship so you can start to learn as well how it works. Finding a mentor. Usually you'll find a mentor through the associations. The South Texas Business Aviation Association has a mentorship committee. I lead that with some other amazing individuals, Emily White with Wheels Up and Tristan Punnett. And so we are helping match mentors and mentees. We're going into schools and having conversations about what we're doing. Central Florida Business Aviation Association is having a Business Aviation Day on March 1st. I'll be speaking there and also doing a special episode of my podcast live with Ed Bolin, the president of the NBAA.
Awesome.
Yeah,
all right.
And some other
I'll be there too. I'll be on one of the
professionals.
panels with Emily Deaton. That's awesome.
Yes. All right. Well, see, there we go. And so this is what happens. And so you connect on LinkedIn. The fact you asked the question on LinkedIn means you're there already. But for those who might be watching this on YouTube or another platform, get a profile up. Start joining the business aviation groups. Interact with other people's comments. Reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions as well. And I can connect you to other people. That's how it begins.
Yeah, for sure. And there you are on LinkedIn, and it was great connecting with you. I know we're just about running out of time, but we do have two more questions real quick. Hayden's asking, for someone who's got high ambitions, how does he learn to slow himself down and get a full perspective? And just as a background, Hayden is a Jet Life Aero broker who just started, about a month or so ago. And so he's like, ready to go. But how does he slow down to speed up?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody. Take a deep breath. We just had this on the podcast earlier. Most people don't breathe properly all day long. When you are checking your email, your phone, your text, all those things, you tend to hold your breath. And when we start to breathe shallowly, we're not getting enough oxygen in our system, and our brains don't get enough oxygen, which means we're not repairing our cognitive function. We lose our attention span, these types of things. So really focus on slowing down your breathing, being really mindful, and getting sleep. Sleep is important. It is not for when you're dead. It is not for when the work is done. It's not a reward. It's something, it is literally, my guests use this. It's sleep is a performance enhancing drug. I endorse sleep. Go sleep.
Nice.
This is how you will slow yourself down. Get a nighttime routine. Build in practices for yourself that sustain the high levels of energy that you're going to use in the day.
Okay. Okay. So what was the biggest thing that you did that has helped you in your success so far? One thing, because I know I found another question popped up.
Okay. The single biggest thing that has helped me in my success so far, being willing to learn.
Ooh.
Because sometimes, especially once you have some years under your belt and you become an expert, we start to think we've made it. And we start to slack on some of the discipline and practice that got us to that success in the first place. So being willing to learn and have the beginner's mindset, even when I think I know something, has helped me the most through everything, because it helped me to apply curiosity, which meant my connection with the person was better, because I wasn't sitting there like, that's not how it is. That's wrong, right? So as soon as you can be willing to learn, a lot of that other noise goes away and you get connection, and then you can get progress as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for everything. There's even more questions flowing in, and I'll forward those to you as we go on. But there's high current burn. Okay, but yeah, let's talk about where people can. I want to add this to the stage where people can get a hold of you. Tell us a little about how they can connect with you, obviously at Leadership, and just the stage is yours. Whatever you want to shout out, please.
Thank you. Yeah. So you can go to sarahkalmeta.com. That's my website. You'll be able to book a 20-minute call with me. And if you're looking for a speaker for your next event, or you want to talk about my podcast, then go ahead and fill that form out. We can have a conversation. I'm always happy to help. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Sarah the Pivoter. If you Google Sarah the Pivoter, you will find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. It's the best way. And Sarah the Pivoter comes from Rosie the Riveter.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I greatly appreciate it. Best of luck to you at the Leadership Conference. I won't be there this year, but hopefully it's something that I can aspire to in the near future. And I will definitely see you at CFBAA because, like I said, I'll be on the panel with Emily Deaton. So that's very cool.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing you and Emily there and everybody else. And if you're in the Florida region and you are also interested in coming to learn about business aviation, this is the event for you, particularly as starting out your career or looking for a mid-career switch.
That's right. That's the Central Florida Business Aviation Association, a regional conference. So yeah. All right. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.